Let's be honest, filing your taxes as an entrepreneur is kind of terrifying. When you're first starting out, there's just so much you need to know about deadlines and rules, and it can get pretty overwhelming pretty fast. Tax deadlines creep up on you, and missing them can be pretty costly. Sure, we all think we know what a write-off is, but it turns out you definitely still have to pay for it. I spent a lot of time as a baby entrepreneur searching for good advice on the internet and trying to do my own taxes. I've come a long way since then, and I want to share some of the tips that have helped me figure this out for myself. Your business might be very different than mine, but no matter what kind of business you run or what country you're in, there are definitely things that can make it easier for you to stay organized leading up to tax time. So in today's video, I'm sharing 8 simple tips that can simplify your small business taxes. By the end of this video, you'll be ready for tax season and feel way more confident when filing your return. We are always looking for new ways we can support you on this channel, so subscribe and hit that bell so you can watch upcoming videos that will take your business to the next level. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Filing your business taxes is probably one of the worst parts of being an entrepreneur. I cannot tell you how much I envy my friends and family who have the world's simplest tax situation. And meanwhile, entrepreneurs have to keep track of everything from the cost of packaging materials to paying contractors to what they got for lunch at that one business meeting. It's a lot more complicated, but I like to think of these hassles as the trade-off for the freedom of being my own boss. It's worth it, I promise. Taxes will probably never be the most fun thing in our business, but we can cut down on the anxiety by following a few simple guidelines. Number 1, knowledge is power. One of the biggest reasons that taxes feel so overwhelming for most of us is that they often are confusing and unfamiliar. When we don't know what we're supposed to be doing or what the rules are, that anxiety makes us want to push it away and procrastinate as long as possible so that we don't have to face the unknown until we have no choice. The problem is that procrastination doesn't help. That anxiety will still be waiting for you when you're finally ready to file your taxes. So the key here is to know your enemy. If you take the time to get crystal clear on what is expected of you as a small business owner, the entire process of doing your taxes will suddenly feel a whole lot more manageable. So there are a few key areas where I think it's a good idea for you to arm yourself with knowledge. The first is tax deadlines. Start by figuring out what the deadlines are in the country where you live and then just put them into your calendar. Even just knowing how much time you have to do your taxes can take a huge weight off as you move through this process. The deadlines are usually different for personal income taxes versus corporate or business taxes. And then if you need to collect sales tax, there are also different deadlines for those payments, depending on what installment schedule you're on. This can end up being a lot of different deadlines, but you don't have to actually do the work right now. At this stage in the process, you just need to know when things will be due so that you can make a solid plan for tackling them. Step 2 is figuring out what the rules are in your country when it comes to claiming business expenses. In Canada, where I live, the official definition of a business expense is a cost you incur for the sole purpose of earning business income. If you need to buy something in order to run your business, you can claim that on your taxes. But if you bought something just for your own personal self-care as a business owner, that's probably stretching the rules a little too far. You are allowed to claim things that are partly for personal use and partly for business, such as a cell phone bill, but the general rule of thumb is to be reasonable in what percentage of use you're claiming is business related. And also keep in mind that you're going to need to be able to show a receipt or an invoice for any expense you claim on your taxes. It's also worth figuring out what you can't claim as a business expense in your country. For example, even if you spend a pretty penny on nice clothes and haircuts and makeup, those costs generally cannot be claimed as business expenses. Not unless you're buying a distinctive uniform with your company logo on it. The same goes for those of us who like to work from a coffee shop. Our daily latte and muffin are not considered business expenses, not unless we're also meeting with a client to talk business, and even then, we can only claim 50% of those costs. As you can see, there are lots of tricky rules like this to learn, so it's a good idea to know what's allowed and what's not where you live. And if you're ever unsure which of the rules on the confusing governmental website applies to your small business situation, don't be afraid to call up your country's tax collection agency. Now, I know if you're nervous about your taxes, this can seem like the exact opposite of what you'd want to do, but for the most part, the people on the other end will be super knowledgeable and happy to talk you through the rules so that you don't accidentally make a mistake. Number 2, create financial separation. One simple but effective way to streamline your business taxes come tax season is to be really diligent about separating out your business and your personal spending. Now, some expenses can't be separated out completely. Like, for example, if you have a home office in your personal home, or you use your car for after-school pickup and driving to your clients' offices, in those mixed use cases, you'll usually have to estimate the percentage of business use after the fact. But for everything else, if you haven't already, try to make sure that you're keeping all your business expenses and payments on only one credit card and through one bank account, if at all possible. Contrary to popular belief, these don't necessarily need to be what banks call a business account, which can actually be more expensive, especially for new entrepreneurs. This simply needs to be an account that you designate for only payments and expenses related to your business. That means all your online subscriptions, your tax software, your website fees, or all those courses that you bought to learn new skills. All of that should be put on your business credit card. This makes it infinitely easier to keep track of your expenses and to tally things up at the end of the year. And God forbid your business ever gets audited, it'll also be a lot easier to provide records to the tax agency because everything will be all in one place. So do a quick checkup in your own business. If there is a recurring charge that qualifies as a business expense, make sure that the credit card on file for that service is the one you want to use for all your business spending. Sometimes if we signed up for something a little while ago, maybe even before we had a business, it could be auto-renewing onto the wrong card, which will just make your life harder at tax time. So make this a habit and it will save you so much time and energy in the long run. Number 3, set up some systems. If you want to stay on top of your taxes throughout the year rather than pulling stressful all-nighters come tax time, it's a good idea to set up some systems to support you starting now. Depending on your personality and your business structure, this could look a lot of different ways. If you're brand new to tracking expenses and the idea feels totally overwhelming, start with the simplest possible system that's just one step up from throwing all your receipts into a shoebox. First, create a label in your email so that you can tag all your digital receipts as they come in. This will make it way easier to find these later and then add them up. I recommend also doing something similar for keeping track of any charitable donations that you might want to claim. These can be really easy to forget, but are a great thing to have handy at tax time. Next, find an app like Google Drive or Dropbox and make a folder where you can upload photos or scans of all your paper receipts. Again, you're still gonna have to manually calculate these later, but at least they'll all be in one place, and those paper copies will be preserved before the ink fades and you forget what you bought. These 2 steps alone could already save you a ton of time and energy. But if you want to take it a step further, you could set up a system that will do some of the calculations for you. For example, you could build a simple spreadsheet in Excel or Google Sheets with pages for tracking your income and your expenses, or just download one of the many templates you can find online. So now, every time you add an expense throughout the year, the spreadsheet will automatically tally up all your totals. There are also more robust programs out there like Airtable and Notion, which can make it even easier to create a personalized database that lets you filter and group and view your transactions by different categories. These databases can save you a lot of time in the long run, but they still require quite a bit of data entry in terms of inputting each expense, unless you have automation set up. Still, all these options are totally free and can be fully customized for your business. So if you're not yet at the stage where you need a more robust system, this could be a great fit. For even more automation, try implementing a program like QuickBooks Online or FreshBooks Accounting to track your spending. It's important to note that none of these accounting platforms are a perfect system. You'll still sometimes need to review or edit their automatic categorizations. And of course, you'll still need to upload photos of all your paper receipts. These programs always come with a financial cost, of course, but there are a lot of advantages to this type of system, such as automatic importing of your expenses from your bank accounts, or syncing with your online store to track your sales, and of course, generating detailed reports at the end of every year. Some of them will even track your car mileage to help you get the biggest possible deduction. So for many small business owners, the small fee that you're going to pay for these services is well worth it. Last but not least, another great option can be hiring someone to help you with your bookkeeping specifically. Bookkeepers will keep track of all your income and your expenses and categorize them for you each month in your accounting software or system. You can send all your receipts and invoices their way and then rest easy, knowing that it'll all be organized efficiently when you're ready to file your taxes. Not only that, but throughout the year, a good bookkeeper will help show you reports that give you a better sense of your business finances and help you make better financial decisions. This is obviously the most expensive option on this list, but for those who struggle to stay on top of their finances or just want to focus on other elements of the business, hiring a good bookkeeper can be an awesome investment. So we've discussed how important it is to have strong financial systems working in your business, but it's also really important that those systems can communicate with the other tools your business uses to make sales or generate income. One of the main reasons that I love Shopify is that it has so many great integrations that can take your business to a whole new level. By taking advantage of Shopify's huge library of apps, your online store will be able to sync with your accounting software, charge your customers the correct sales tax, and generate sales reports that will be so helpful at tax time. All of this means a lot less work for you and a lot more savings on your tax return. So if you're ready to start building your online store with Shopify, you can get a free 2-week trial by clicking the link in our description box below. There's no commitment at all to try it out and see whether Shopify is the right choice for you as you grow your business. Number 4, organize as you go. This is not so much a tip as it is a mindset, but I think it's so important that I had to put it on the list. When it comes to taxes, it's time to stop putting things off until the last possible second. You're only creating more stress and work for yourself by making tax time into crunch time. Will Smith famously said, "If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready." And I think that's really good life advice that applies here too. So whether you're working with a bookkeeper or entering your expenses yourself, get into the habit of organizing as you go. I like to use Gretchen Rubin's 1-minute rule, meaning that if it takes less than a minute, just do it now. So for example, if you buy a bunch of office supplies, photograph and upload your receipt before you even leave the store. Or if you get a digital receipt for your branding photo shoot, forward it straight to your bookkeeper or save it to your email folder right away. Doing these things in the moment means that you won't have to go looking for expenses later or miss out on important deductions just because you lost a receipt or forgot about it. And if you don't have time in that moment, try to input your receipts the same day or at the very least in the same week. Mark those emails as unread in your inbox until you can categorize them. Or leave your paper receipts front and center on your desk or taped to your computer screen to force you to deal with them. Do not leave them crumpled up in your bag or throw them in a shoebox to wither away. Receipt ink is notorious for fading, and you can't claim something that you can't prove you bought. In my experience, people really resist this tip because it feels so tedious and we hate thinking about taxes unless we absolutely have to. But I promise you that it's actually a whole lot easier in the long run to keep things organized rather than get things organized. Plus, if you have good financial systems set up in your business, like we talked about in the last tip, this should actually be a pretty painless process to quickly input your expenses. You can't tell me you don't have time to take a picture of something on your phone and upload it to an app or a folder when you literally do that in other areas of your business every single day. So this year, try your best to stay on top of your expense tracking, and you can thank me later. Number 5, save for taxes automatically. As a self-employed person, you're probably going to owe some money at tax time. In many ways, this is a good sign. If your business is big enough to owe a lot of tax, you're probably doing pretty well for yourself. But often when we first start our businesses, we sometimes forget that paying taxes is part of the deal. For example, as self-employed people in Canada, we are 100% responsible for paying towards our pension plan each year, which is an additional cost that most employed people don't have to pay in the same way. We also don't have any money taken off each of our paychecks the way that employees do, which means that we have to pay all of those taxes all at once at tax time in a big chunk. Plus, if your business is required to collect sales tax, you'll also need to set that aside to pay back to the government throughout the year. So it's essential to make sure that you have the money you need when you need it. The worst case scenario is to have a huge tax bill due and no money to cover it because you spent it all right when it came in. So it's a great idea to have a separate tax account that you pretend just doesn't exist and you never touch it, not even in emergencies. Make sure that this is not a checking account so you can't spend that money accidentally, and better yet, set it up at a completely different bank than the rest of your accounts. Next, you need to make sure that you're regularly taking out your taxes every time you get paid. Ideally, this would happen automatically every time you receive income, but not all banks offer this feature. At the very least, you should be able to set up an automatic monthly transfer based on your average income so that you can make sure you're saving enough overall. And if you're not sure how much tax you'll owe each year, use a free tax calculator to estimate your taxes based on your income, your country, and your RRSP contributions. Then I recommend that you round up. It's better to have a little extra money in your tax account at the end of the year than it is to not have enough. Number 6, give yourself more time. Tax season can be an incredibly stressful time, and if you've left everything until the last minute, it might feel impossible to get your taxes done by the deadline, at least until next year when you've implemented some of these tips. The good news is that depending on where you live, you might actually be able to apply for an extension in filing your taxes. In the United States, for example, it's pretty easy to file for an automatic 6-month extension if you're a corporation or a sole proprietor, as long as you still pay your estimated taxes owed by the official deadline. All you need to do is fill out the appropriate form and you'll get an additional 6 months to get yourself organized and file your return. In Canada, we don't have that same system, but self-employed people do get some extra time to file their taxes. The regular personal income tax deadline is April 30th, but all self-employed people and their spouses get until June 15th each year to file their taxes. While you'll still need to pay your tax bill by April 30th, it's great to get a bit more time to do all that extra paperwork that running a business can require. Depending on where you live, the deadlines and possibilities for filing extensions will differ, so do some research into the rules for your country. You may not need the extra time this year, but it's good to know what your options would be if you ever do in the future. And also keep in mind that during the pandemic, many countries have created tax filing extensions that automatically apply to everyone. So it's worth just looking into whether your business would qualify for some of those programs as well. As business owners, we need all the tax help that we can get. Number 7, make it more fun. I never thought I'd be saying the words fun and taxes in the same sentence, but here we are. For one thing, you really don't have to go it alone. Many of my clients and colleagues use accountability to help them to prioritize their taxes by doing virtual or in-person co-working sessions. This time could be spent digitizing your old shoeboxes of receipts or categorizing your last months of transactions or just balancing your budget. Having other people there to chat and commiserate with while you go through these boring bookkeeping tasks can really make all the difference. You also don't have to use boring old spreadsheets. Why not add some emojis to your budget categories or color code your database columns? I use You Need a Budget to track my expenses, and you can bet your bottom dollar that all of my business line items have really fun emojis attached to them. The truth is that the more your financial systems feel like you, the more likely you are to use them. That's why you should choose wisely. If the top-rated accounting software is ugly and clunky, but aesthetics are important to you, try something else. Even if it's a really functional program, it's not going to be useful if you're not actually using it. And lastly, try making your financial routines into a bit more of a ritual. If you have to spend an entire afternoon going through your expenses, at least make sure you're doing it with a big cup of tea and a good playlist, or heading to your favorite coffee shop, or just cozying up on the couch. The activity you're doing might not be your favorite, but bringing in some intentionality can help. Number 8, get an ally. Speaking of not going it alone, this last tip might actually be the most important. When it comes time to file your taxes as an entrepreneur, it's a good idea to get some help. While of course you can learn a lot about deductions and rules all on your own, the truth is that you probably have a lot of other important work to do in your business. Meanwhile, accountants are trained to understand the ins and outs of your country's tax system and stay really up to date on all the new tax programs and benefits that you could qualify for. As a result, this is some of the best money that you can spend as a small business owner because accountants typically pay for themselves just by finding you expenses to claim or benefits to apply for. Plus, if you're confused about when you need to start charging sales tax or when your installment payments will be due, a good accountant will help you understand all the details of what your business will owe and when. Now, if you can't afford to hire an accountant this year, consider hiring a virtual ally in the form of a specialized tax software for self-employed people. Tax programs like TurboTax or H&R Block will usually have a self-employed option, which can be even more effective in helping you file your business taxes if you are going it alone. The program should walk you through every step of the process and explain each category of expenses, help you to calculate your capital cost allowances for your larger purchases, and also let you know about incentives or programs that your business will qualify for. While these programs are obviously not as in-depth as working with an accountant directly, they are a great option for small business owners who are just starting out. Whether we like it or not, paying taxes is a fact of life, and it isn't going away anytime soon. So the sooner you invest in learning about your taxes and setting up some systems that will support you, the easier this process will be for you each and every year. It is a worthwhile use of your time to understand your taxes and prepare for them so that you don't have to suffer so much every single tax season. And now that you have some ideas for how to prep your taxes, I want to challenge you to take one small action today. Taxes are always more overwhelming when we procrastinate and leave all the work until the last minute. So this time, try picking one tip from this list and putting it into practice right away. Look up your tax deadlines or send your accountant an email, or just start digitizing that shoebox full of receipts. I promise that your future self will thank you for it. And let me know in the comments below, what questions do you have about managing the financial side of your business? We are always looking for new ways we can support you on this channel, so subscribe and hit that bell so you can watch upcoming videos that will take your business to the next level. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.